All right, welcome to the CITIUS Cafe presented by HOKA. CITIUS Station, too. We got this awesome set built out by Rome Creative, and we are posted up at the HOKA flagship store on 5th Avenue. I'm Chris Chavez, joined by Aisha Pratt-Lear and Eric Jenkins for the 2024 New York City Marathon preview. It is the best day of the year in the best city in the world. How excited are you guys for Sunday?
Freaking pumped.
I'm also glad that we're back together. Like, was it our first time all together since Paris?
It's our
right?
first time.
Yeah.
I'm fired up. I'm so excited.
Also, if you're watching, we're wearing the coolest shirts
Oh, yeah.
that have ever existed in the entire world. If you're listening, I'll describe it to you. We're wearing Oxford button-down shirts, emblazoned with amazing subway stop buttons. We have a CITIUS logo. We are looking so cute. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I rarely, because I work from home, I really don't get to wear a collared shirt all that often, but I figured today is a special
It
occasion.
looks like you wear it a lot. I mean, you look great in it.
So, all right, it's the New York City Marathon taking place Sunday morning, November 3rd, the last World Marathon major of the year. The fields for this one, you would think in an Olympic year that there'd be people who are too tired to run and that they'd call it, after a busy summer, but actually they're just like, you know what? August to November is enough time. I'll get one more marathon in me. So we've got Tamirat Tola and Hellen Obiri, both medalists at the Paris Olympics, coming back to defend their titles. We've got U.S. Olympians, Connor Mantz, Clayton Young, Dakota Popen, new name.
New name.
First marathon as a married woman. We'll touch on all of it. We got the details about, the wedding. So we're going to touch on all of that stuff because the race is just stacked with storylines. So where do we want to begin? Do we want to do men's race, women's race first? Ladies first?
I don't care. I'll do either.
We are just so happy to be here. Whatever you want to
Excited
talk
to
about
talk.
is great.
Excited to talk. Just been sitting around for a while, waiting to talk. ready to get going. Let's extend. Let's make this one a long one. Let's really stretch this
4
out.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
This is like Rogan then.
Let's have a Rogan. Yeah.
All right, let's start with the women's race then. So in this one, the fastest personal best on paper belongs to Sheila Chepkarui, who has run 2:17:29. And in order to find Hellen Obiri, so she's actually buried at number 8, I believe, on the PR list because she's run 2:21 before. We just have never seen Hellen run on a fast, flat course. In addition to that, we've got other past champions, including 2022 champion Sharon Lokedi in this one, who finished 4th at the Paris Olympics. Both Hellen and Sharon have essentially gone at it in Boston and New York and in Paris now. That it's a nice little sort of rivalry that is building up a bit, a respectful one at that. But those are the two heavy hitters who I'm looking at, and we'll touch on a lot of the rest of the women who are in this field. But lots of big names: Tarun Stababa, Vivian Cheriot, Barry Teferi, Deridita, Edna Kiplagat. So this one's stacked from top to bottom. But I do think I think all three of us are in agreement that it is sort of like Hellen and Sharon, with the experience that they have on this course and just how good their performances have been lately. Those are the two that we're definitely, I think, going to be directing, the race. What do you think?
I completely agree. And I think this is going to be interesting. Every race between them is a rematch, but you've got to think that coming in 4th place at the Olympics by just, 8-second margin, that has got to have played over and over again in Sharon's mind. And I'm really excited to see the dynamic between these two, because in their previous races, it almost seemed as though Hellen was the one making moves. She was, throwing the body blows in this battle. And I would love to see if Sharon is the one who's she's been stewing over this in sort of like a Rocky Balboa training montage for the last couple of months, getting ready to throw down in this race. I think it's going to be really exciting.
The cool part is if you look at the results, I think the margin of victory between Hellen and Sharon has only gotten smaller each time out. And I think it may have been down to 4 or 8 seconds, whatever it was in Paris. That, all right, that's enough of a gap that they've gone at it on this course before. They both know where the moves tend to be made, which seems to be like in that 10K to go, 5K to go. It changes up in the last 2 years, but I guess like you just don't want to have Hellen anywhere near you with like a mile to go.
Well, I'm thinking about last year's race. Wasn't it like a sprint? I mean, the finish of last year's race between them was so exciting. Like it wasn't like there was one decisive move. It was like back and forth in the last few miles, lead changes between them. Always exciting. I mean, Sharon she's never finishing. Like, what's her worst finish in a marathon? Recently,
like
fourth.
Yeah.
So it's and all those marathons just happen to have Hellen Obiri in them.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be really tough to beat Hellen. I think even though you said like 8th fastest in the field, she's probably looked at amongst the other competitors as a heavy favorite. But I would love to see Sharon be able to get out there and pull off a win this weekend.
So the thing with Hellen that is just so fascinating is just like, and this is sort of when you have these unpaced races, it's like to get a gauge of like what her fitness would be on a flat, fast course. I like to look at like the people who beat her. And so like in Paris, it was 2:13 marathoner and distance just goat, Sifan Hassan. And then 2:11 marathoner, Tigges Assefa, who had the world record up until 3 weeks ago, I think it was. And now it's sort of like Hellen is probably in that category. When I spoke to her yesterday, the thing that really jumped out to me because, and maybe you've had a couple of run-ins in Boulder, but like you see these videos on Instagram of Joe Klecker working out with Hellen, and then during the press conference yesterday, she says that she's been doing workouts at like 2:10, 2:11 pace, like, which again, if it was 3 weeks ago before the Chicago Marathon, we probably would have been like, that is crazy. Like, no woman should be doing that. But now that the world record is 2:09.56, like, by Ruth Chepngetich, it totally redefines like what we're thinking is possible with some of these athletes. And Hellen is someone who like the praise has been there constantly ever since she started venturing into the marathon. Dathan always kind of throwing out like, oh yeah, she can run 2:14, she can run 2:13, and now it's gotten to the point where it's like Hellen could be one of those people who runs 2:11, 2:12, or whatever it might be. But this is definitely not the course for something like that. So Hellen's kind of targeting more 2:18, which would smash the course record, which has stood for a while. But 2:18 on this race, I don't think is something you can do alone. So you're looking at someone like Sharon has to also maybe commit to a pace like that in order to happen.
And Sharon also hasn't run one of these
Exactly.
really fast marathons. And it's interesting you say that about the training paces, because let's put that in context. This is at altitude. This is in Boulder, Colorado. It's been hot in Boulder, where I live, as well. Get to see Hellen out there on the roads, but it's also very hilly. There is not a flat place in Boulder to run. So when I'm hearing that, I'm thinking, holy, like that is incredibly impressive to be able to hold those paces in that environment.
Yeah, okay, so sources, where we were kind of talking to people through the grapevine as to like, all right, so like how, I haven't talked to Dathan yet, but like how fit is Hellen when she's throwing out these times? And so someone did tell me they did 8 by mile on the dirt roads. I don't know where, but maybe you can probably contextualize this a bit better. 60 seconds rest at 5-minute pace, and quote, she probably could have done much more than that. And when, you know, I mentioned it to both Eric and Mac, they're just like, oh, like 8 by mile, 5-minute pace, 60 seconds rest.
Sounds like a good workout for you, bud.
Yeah, bud.
So they're like, oh, all right, that was good. Nothing that really raised eyebrows. Then the next one we heard was a fartlek averaging 5:15 to 5:20 a mile. All right. And what we heard was also that like,
I just love how you're like throwing out these workouts. You're like, I need more. I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
better. I need more numbers.
No,
I need more.
I'm just waiting because
okay, so this is the one that stood out. Oh, also that one, the first one was on the dirt terrain, which kind of,
no, again, there's not a place. There's not a flat place.
so if
there's
it was
not
on a track, 4:48 is what we were told. That
right.
would be like.
Yeah. No, that's
wild.
right. And the dirt roads in Boulder, they're great. It's my favorite place to run in the world, but they're not even. They're bumpy as heck. They're washboarded. It's slippy dirt. It's not like a perfect San Moritz path. There's not a flat mile in Boulder. Like the closest you can get is maybe Marshall Road, but like even that's not flat. And I'm
Okay.
thinking of where they work out, and it's one of two dirt miles. It's either on Monarch or on Oxford.
Which does that make that more impressive?
Yeah. Yeah. And these are just sort of like sitting on a little of an inclined plane, and like most people would say that this is like a little hilly. Like these aren't flat miles she's doing. And if she's doing a fartlek at 5:15, to be able to like do a fartlek in Boulder, you are climbing big hills to run that pace, and also descending steep hills, probably also on dirt. Like this is not like Sauvie Island, Portland running. Like this is really like challenging routes.
How's this one? Which I don't know if this is. Oh, it is at altitude apparently. 2 by 10K, 3 minutes rest in between. 30-30, 30 flat.
I want to go home.
Yeah, see, that's for sure the better work. Like
That's the best one.
Lead
I
with
think,
that
of all.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, give us the ramp up. I love it.
I think
Yeah.
it goes. You're right. That was good. It was a good way to do it. I think it goes that workout, then the fartlek for me, and then the mile
8 by
repeats.
miles. Yeah.
I mean, I think the 2 by 10K is just an incredible workout.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Helen, it's like she doesn't have the fast times, but it's when you're just winning all these races and competing like she does, the time's gonna come, and you want to be the one who's just racing and winning. Like she's not concerned at this point of trying to be the if you just win every race you're in or try to, the time's gonna come. And same with Sharon. Like you'd rather be the racer and the competitor than someone who goes out and is just trying to time trial fast marathons in Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a bit about like, oh yeah, Helen hasn't run fast, but Helen is one of these women whose personal bests on the track are just outrageous.
Yeah, we have them right here. So it's 4:18 for 5K
Yeah.
before the super spikes.
This is before super spikes.
2017, 30:10 for 10K back in 2022.
She did that on the roads.
Yeah.
Did that.
Yeah. And so it's sometimes rare. You get these like incredible historic track racers. They're this fast paces in their legs, and it doesn't always translate to marathon. So it's like, oh yeah, she hasn't quote unquote run fast in a marathon yet, but 14:18 is in her legs. Like, so this 5-minute pace that feels comfortable to like her cadence and her body. So it's just like building the strength behind it to be able to let that beautiful stride flow.
This is going to kind of open up a little bit of a can of worms, similar to like the debate around who's the fastest man in the world, right? Like the whole thing that we had all throughout the summer. But with a victory here in New York, can Hellen Obiri be considered the best marathoner in the world? Because that would be 2 wins in Boston in the last 2 years, 2 wins in New York in the last 2 years, an Olympic bronze medal. Like there's that. Or Ruth Chepngetich, 2:09 world record.
Well, but are we considering Safan? Like, are we?
There's Safan Hassan as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, Safan Hassan won the Olympic gold on after how many races and 2 other medals.
So who would you?
I mean, I would say. I mean, how are you gonna say after watching someone run 2:09 that like if Helen wins in let's say 2:18? I mean, you can't just say she's the best. She's absolutely one of the best. Is she the best marathoner in the world? Like, no, she just got beat by Safan Hassan a few weeks ago. Ruth.
But then Safan Hassan got beat in like Tokyo back in March.
Yeah, true.
And then Ruth Chepngetich had a bad one in London. So like, I think those other two have blemishes on their records, whereas Helen, third place is
Oh
a
no,
blemish.
like you can't deny like how consistently great she is, and the amount of wins she has is undeniable. But are you gonna just say
this is a made-up title, by the way?
exactly? Yeah. For this, it's just tough with this made-up title to say that she is gonna get this made-up title if she wins. But she's certainly. I mean, for this made-up title, she's absolutely right up there for sure if she wins.
I think it just depends on what you value, right? It's like, do you value like consistency, head competition? Do you value fast times? Do you value
I like winning.
I like winning.
Yeah,
I
I
do
value
like
that.
winning. Yeah.
It's a good value to have if you're racing
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, but it is really tough to like, all right, well, Ruth is faster than Frank Shorter now. So like how do we conceptualize and put that into the context here? It's like, what?
That's true. No one ever talks about how Ruth's faster than Frank Shorter.
But
man,
something
Frank
to consider
Shorter. Yeah,
when
no,
we're
it's-
talking about, made up titles. Like, this is bananas. But I say it all the time. If you're a longtime listener for the last 3 months of CITIUS, I value racing and I value head-to-head competition. So for the made up title, if Hellen does win this, I think she's got my vote.
Yeah, I think same here. I think I'm in the same. Camp.
Okay.
So-
I'm just an idiot. Yeah. All right.
Really quick to touch on some other people who may be in contention for the win, aside from both Hellen and Sharon. You got Sheila Chepkarou, who's run 2:17. But then behind that, it's the most intriguing. Like, we just jumped into a time
I'm like, there's a
machine.
Dababa somewhere on that list.
It's
Yeah.
Tarunish Dababa.
Yeah.
Who, like, has a 2:17 PB, but hasn't raced all that much. Like, I thought it was a typo when the elite entry list came out. And I was like, surely they mean Gonzebe because
Surely.
she's been
Yeah.
active.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's the Tarunish Dababa who's got how many Olympic medals at this point? Is it like something like 6? Something
I couldn't
ridiculous.
tell you.
Oh, wait,
Something-
I
yeah.
think I pulled up the stats.
And then right behind her, it's also like
Is Dababa the fastest 5K woman in the field?
maybe Obiri might have her beat.
Okay, Tarunish has 3 Olympic gold medals, 16 world championship gold medals.
16.
And she's held 2 world records.
Yeah.
And
Oh, so yeah, she definitely has that Hellen on the 5K. Yeah.
she has podiumed in every marathon that she's finished.
That's a stat.
That is one.
That's a great stat.
But it's been a while
She
since the
should.
last one,
She's
right?
got to be in there for the made
I
up
think
title.
she's had 2 kids since then,
Yeah.
since her last marathon.
And so
she's
similar-
been busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And similarly,
She's been busy.
Vivian Chariot, another one where it's like, what year is it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. God, my like young runner self is just like torqued up for this. I was reading the start list like my girls are back. Like, this is awesome. I've been a fan of Vivian forever. I mean, I wrote some stats. World champion in 10K in 2015, 9 years ago. Rio Olympic gold medalist at 5K, silver in the 10K. She's won World Cross. Anybody who's won World Cross, I'm fearful of. Like, that is the hardest race
Scared
in the
to
world.
death of anyone winning World Cross.
They're crazy.
Oh my
That's
God.
a really hard race. But yeah, Vivian, she's won London.
Yeah. She's back because, like, her latest marathon was in Paris this year. She ran 2:21, raced a couple times, including 2 half marathons in September as part of a tune-up for all of this. But yeah, another one where it's like 41 years old, I believe has a couple kids, maybe.
Yeah, she just had another kid.
Yeah.
2.
So this is not if you were a track and field fan in 2012 and then like was like, hey, like in 2024 you're gonna get to see Dababa, Chariot, Obiri like all in a marathon, you'd be like, whoa, that's awesome. But it's like, I can't believe they're still running into their 40s. But hey,
And running
these super
really well.
shoes are advancing everyone's careers.
And if we're talking about that, we have to talk about Edna Kiplagat.
Yeah, Edna's still in it. Edna, Beach to Beacon champ, I guess, or
I guess.
yeah. Like this past summer, like she's still running like podium in Boston
Yes.
again.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's going to turn 45 in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
If I really would not be surprised to see her on the podium.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Do you see her often in Boulder?
Yeah. Anytime I see Edna, when I see her roll into the parking lot, I say to the girls, Edna. And I always whisper her name when she's around because she's just a total legend. But she's super nice. Her kids go to high school in Niwot. They're on the track team. They're also really great runners. I think her daughter set the state record for middle school cross country. I mean, she's a legend.
Love it. So in addition, so we've got
Is this like the most historic
the
field
most
that's like decorated field for a
sure.
lineup?
I
Yeah.
wish like they had all brought their medals and like they could put them all on a table because it would be just piles and piles just all together.
It would be like a security risk.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you take your eyes off that table for a sec. Someone who didn't get a medal is leaving with a medal.
The medals also just like we can extend it to the track. Jenny Simpson's in this
Yes.
race.
Yeah.
Jenny with her 3 world championship medals and the Olympic bronze from 2016. So a lot of track success taking it to the marathon this weekend. And for Jenny, if we're going to kind of bounce around here, this is her final marathon, the third of her career. First one was the trials in Orlando. She dropped out. Then after that, she rebounded in Boston. I think it was the fourth American there, just a tad over 2:30. So, the news comes out this week that this is it for her final, competitive race. And next year she's going to be going on a cross-country tour, visiting 50 states in 50 weeks out of a Winnebago, just creating content and vlogging the whole thing. And so she's going to have quite a bit of fun doing that. But knowing Jenny and the competitor that she is, it's she's not just celebrating and jogging this one in on Sunday. She's going to, the way she put it to me, she's like, I want to leave everything out there on Sunday. So obviously it hasn't been this direct correlation like we've seen with some of these other marathoners of track success instantly being oh, Jenny could break the American record in the marathon. It just doesn't come as easy to some people. And so Jenny's success at the marathon isn't anything extravagant, but it's just sort of it's just been really cool to see the longevity that she has. She didn't miss a team from 2007 to 2019. It was the pandemic that really kind of just threw a little bit of a wrench in sort of her career and trajectory on the track. But Father Time comes for everyone at some point. Yeah,
and also, the athletes we were talking about before, their track, their 5K, 10K. Jenny is, she's a middle distance athlete. One of, if not the best, probably female 1,500 athlete America's ever had. So I think the marathon is just, it's a totally different sport, honestly, than middle distance running. But yeah, with this field, it's who knows necessarily what in her mind is a good day out there. But yeah, what an unbelievable career. And yeah, hats off to her on the best type of career.
I think there's beauty in knowing what your last race is, having just gone through this. I just retired myself 4 months ago, but I selected my last race. And there is something sort of poetic of knowing it's your last. And so you're willing to just pour every ounce of yourself into the last one and just have such a great experience that the nerves are less. You're taking in more information. Wow, this is you're looking into people's eyes. This might be the last time I see Chris Chavez, but it is really special and unique. And I think what a gift for her American fan base. She's won Fifth Ave 8 times. Jenny always races great in New York. She's such a legacy athlete, and I think what a gift for her to give herself, but also to her fan base of hey, this is my last one. If you wanted to cheer for me, this is your last chance. I think this is such a poetic finish to her great career.
What would teenage Eric Jenkins be feeling if they told him that in 2024 both Matthew Centrowitz and Jenny Simpson would be retiring from professional running?
Teenage Eric Jenkins.
Don't know him.
He'd be who are I? I'm Matty. I don't know either of those people, but nice, good for them. I hope they had good careers. But if you told 23-year-old Eric Jenkins, they'd be oh, nice, that's wild that they're both running marathons. They're 1,500 meter people. I'm I'm on Centro's team right now. Yeah. It actually was great, speaking of Centro's marathon, for to see the heartfelt Instagram post he made of the marathon when he never once made that type of post for the 1,500. We got a full Centro marathon race breakdown, really heartfelt, really awesome. And it was not one of those for the race. Wins Olympic gold, whatever. Yeah.
He's gone soft.
Yeah. He's about to become a dad.
It was adorable. It was honestly, I was this is so sweet that he's doing this.
Yeah, that would never be on my bingo card. It's a heartfelt message from Centro.
Such an endearing post. He was pacing, right? But he was pacing the American women.
Yeah.
Just having a blast out there. I bet he was out there just nonstop talking.
Oh my God. Yeah. Honestly, if I had to run a marathon, Centro is my man. That guy did not take a breath. He told 26.2 miles of stories. And then probably whoever he was finishing with, he was continuing the story after they had passed the finish line. That would be the best ever.
It'd be great.
You would never have to think.
Yeah, no, you would, it'd be entertainment the whole time. You'd never be thinking about the race. It'd be great.
You think that's his next career move? It's just like he's just pacing women's marathons?
Oh, for hire. Like he could make so much money if you're
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm an Olympic gold medalist. I got this. It's like, it would be like a new version of tourism, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he could charge somebody, I don't know, like 10, 20 grand and be like, hey, you know, I'll take you through silky smooth. I got whatever pace you need. I'll tell you stories the whole time. It's going to be great. You don't have to worry about a thing.
Oh, so many people would sign up for that.
I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah. All right, let's touch on the rest of the. Eric's like, no. Rest of the American field for this one, because I do think like we're gonna have a pretty stiff battle for the top American on the women's side, because you have Dakota Popen. We're gonna get it right. She Popen.
Popen.
Yeah, Popen.
Propane.
Yeah.
Propane. She said propane without the R.
Yeah.
Dakota Pro. I like Dakota Propane. If they should change.
She's bringing
go
the
with that?
gas.
Yeah, just Dakota Propane. Yeah, she's bringing the gas.
Yeah.
Don't smoke around her. She's going up in flames. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we got Dakota, who's coming off a 12th place finish. Is she okay?
Don't smoke around her.
Don't smoke. Put the cigarette out. You're around Dakota Propane.
I can't.
I like it. It's like a cool name.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Can somebody do some like quick print shirts?
Yeah.
I love it.
Unhinged. Dakota Propane.
Dakota Propane.
Don't smoke around her.
Yeah.
I missed this. All right. So Dakota, coming off of the Olympics, is maybe the favorite. Yes, there are some women who have faster personal bests than her, including, Des Linden, Kellen Taylor, Sarah Vaughn, Alfine Tuliamuk. But I think it's Dakota versus Jess McLean. Jess, because she's coming off of a summer where she trained for a marathon, didn't get the chance to ultimately run it. Fiona O'Keefe towed the line for the marathon, dropped out before 5K, and Jess was the alternate, didn't get the chance to run. But so you have all this fitness. She ended up running on the roads, won the U.S. 10K title, and then finished second in the 20K championships. That she's fit, and she seems to be. This is her first major, so there's tons of excitement around that. I think Jess is someone who will stick to Dakota, and on top of that, Dakota is also just, in addition to saying that she's been running 130 miles a week, like saying that she wants to run with the leaders. And so that makes this all the more exciting, I think.
Well, I guess what is the strategy? Like, do you think that the smart move is to run with the leaders if you are Dakota? I mean, it was kind of like you're listing off because I do think she is probably the favorite to be the top American. You listed off some like Des Linden.
Yeah.
That's another
Smart racer, yeah.
smart racer, but again, she's one of the best marathoners America's ever had. But again,
Like, what have you done for me lately?
How many
races?
races?
Yeah.
I mean, how many races does she have left?
Right.
At the elite level. But Dakota, as far as the Hellen Obiris
Yeah.
and all the athletes we just talked about before, it might not be in Dakota's best interest to go out with them, especially a course like New York, like one of the harder courses. If you go out too fast in the beginning, and with all the hills that come in the second half, you could really blow up and not end up as the top American, or not. You might finish way back. So I just wonder like what the race strategy is. If it goes out too fast, do you still want to be up there in the front, or do you want to kind of run a different race? Maybe work with an athlete like Jess and just run a different strategy.
I would send it if
Yeah,
I was
right. What do
Dakota.
you have to lose?
She has nothing to lose. She just, became an Olympian. She just got married. She just probably set the record from like engagement to marriage.
Yeah.
Like that was incredible. She's riding so high, and I would just employ completely different strategies if I were Dakota and if I were Jess. If I'm Dakota, I'm sending it. Just why not? Just see what you have. You've been training tons of mileage. She really like got her racing chops at Grandma's, right?
Yeah.
And isn't Grandma's hilly? Or is it not?
Flat-ish. Yeah.
Never mind. I'm wrong. Completely wrong. But she just ran really well in Paris, which is a hilly marathon. So icing on the cake, just why not? Test yourself. And Jess has had an incredible year. Fourth in both the marathon trials and the 10K on the track at the U.S. trials. She's really ascending, and this is her, as you said, her first major. And if I'm Jess, I'm looking around for this super smart racers. I'm looking for Edna, who appears on every podium because Edna runs within herself, knows her race. Is similar to how Scott Fauble races, where you're just like, you hit halfway and you're starting to collect the scragglers that have gone out too hard. And if I'm Jess, I'm trying to capitalize on my race strategy and what has gotten me to be so successful so far. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how those race plans play out. And I feel like a lot of people just keep the cards close to their chest until probably like Sunday morning, and then we'll know very early on who's going with who. The funny thing was, it was like when Dakota told me, she was like, yeah, I want to be up there with the leaders. And then I did bring up the fact that just moments before I spoke with Hellen, and I was like, Hellen's thinking this could be a 2:18 race. And then she was like, okay, maybe not Hellen, but whoever else is up there as well. So I mean, Hellen's going to need some help making this thing as fast as she's hoping for. In the past, Dathan has kind of always been like, this is a game of patience, and like you just got to show some restraint and hold back. You don't want to be the person doing all the work in the front. And so it's going to, if someone like, the Sheila Chepkarui or Sinberi Teferi has the wheels and wants to press from the front, then like, that's great. Then like, Hellen will have people to go with. But if it's another race where, like in the last couple of years, we see it come down to like the final 5K, 10K, then maybe that course record will probably still end up holding up because, I mean, this race has been won in like 2:27 in recent years too. So
what is the course record?
I think it's 2:21 or 2:22.
It's 2:22.
Set when?
2012.
And is that what did Hellen say? Like, I want the course record.
Yeah. So, I mean, nowadays with people running 2:09, 2:13, like, if we look at all of the world majors, I think this might be like the slowest course record, but it is a super challenging course. Speaking of the course, we have the course map pulled up, Mac.
Or calling her shot, does that make the other athletes force her to lead?
Mac is asking if Hellen calling her shot forces the other athletes, forces Hellen to lead.
It kind of does. I mean, it does in a lot of ways. Like if it were going to compare it to a track race, if someone says like, I want this pace, and he's the one that's expected to get on the pacers.
Yes.
So if Hellen's like, I want to be a 2:18 race, then people are going to be looking around like, all right, like step up, make it a 2:18 type of race.
Yeah.
Because it's like she's got the wheels. I mean, because she clearly wants to run fast, but it's like she doesn't need to make it a fast race to win. She can win it in a slow race. You would almost think like her best race to win is a slower race, close hard.
Right.
So yeah, I do think other competitors are going to look at her and say, all right, you want to do a lot of talking, you're going to need to step up and actually run that time.
Yeah.
All
no
right.
free rides.
We've got the course map queued up. Eric, do you want
I'm like, I blacked out the lead vehicle experience.
All right, so this is the start. You get the cannon go off from Frank Sinatra's New York playing, and you make your way into Brooklyn, and then once you're in Brooklyn, you're in there for, it's honestly, I've always thought of it as like the Brooklyn half plus the other boroughs, because you're in there for about 13 miles before you finally like cross over into Queens. A lot of the people in Brooklyn are right on top of you. The Pulaski Bridge, halfway point, kind of a sneaky little uphill to, start warming up your legs before you take on the Queensboro Bridge, the quietest part of the entire course. But then it shoots you up onto First Avenue, where there's a million people on both sides cheering you on. Head into the Bronx, say hello to the people, peek right back into Manhattan, and then you have to go up Fifth Avenue, which is sneakily the toughest part of the course because it's a little uphill. And then what's one last dose of hills as you get into Central Park and make your way down south, up the west side, and right to the finish. That was the TCS New York City Marathon course breakdown.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, hold on.
Wow.
Let's
Can
let's
we?
have me do it.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, you're coming up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then now we're in Queens. Oh, hello, Bronx. Yeah. Harlem. Yeah. Say hello to Harlem, people. Now you're in it. Oh, this part's gonna suck. There's a hill here. Oh yeah, I remember being on a truck for this. Should have wore an extra sweatshirt.
Yeah, tell us about your experience on the truck.
Yeah.
So for context, what the New York Roadrunners do is they typically bring on like some of the top U.S. track athletes and give them a course preview and to entice them to make their debut here someday. And so Eric, as a 5K star, was one of those athletes who they're like, let's get him on the truck and see what he thinks. And then he never ran the
This
marathon.
guy's definitely going to run the marathon. Let's get him on the
So
track.
like, one day he'll do the marathon, and I retired like shortly after.
You took one look at the course and was like, no.
It,
How about
it
no?
actually was a good way to have someone never do it. It's traumatizing because so you're on the actually I was with Fobble. Fobble did it shortly after, so it worked for them. But no, you're out there. I was exhausted being on the truck. I'm out there, 2+ hours, mentally drained, and the thing that strikes you about this course is there was so much running, and where they're all packed up, and then the Africans made a hard move, and then it was pure carnage, and then they still had like an hour plus of running to do, just all solo, all looked brutal. Actually, Dathan was out there. Dathan was the one, Dathan's like, oh, don't push the pace. And it's like, yeah, from experience. Because he was doing a little bit of pushing the pace back when I was on the lead truck. And I thought, that's gonna come to bite you in the ass, Dathan. And sure enough, hit some hard parts, and then I was like, poor guy is out, because I'm like, look, I've been out here on the truck, just sitting, and I'm pretty tired. I'm like asking the guy, hey, step on the gas, let's get this show over with. Anyway, let's just plow over a few of these people, let's go. But yeah, no, it was tough out there. Another thing that's really cool about this race is that how loud it is.
On Fifth.
On
On First Avenue.
on like all throughout the course. Yeah. Like it is deep, like people cheering really hard throughout the entire race. And there's like different energies in the different parts of the race. Like there's bands, at like DJs going.
It's like a tour of New York,
it's like
right?
it's like a tour of New York.
You get to experience the vibe of every neighborhood, and people are everywhere.
Yeah, it was really
fun.
it's a lot. I almost think like if you're out there, is there a part of you that's like you got to block off and just like obviously you're using the crowd at certain points of the race when you need it, but it's you've got to kind of like tune everything out. It's like, but it's so much noise to tune out. It's a party out there, like start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what makes the Queensboro Bridge so challenging. Is that's the only part where it's like it's you, and it's the part that's got
you and your
multiple
mind.
Times. It's you, your mind, and just like the sound
your biggest
of
enemy.
Hundreds of footsteps, and that's it, and heavy breathing.
You're like, oh no, my thoughts. Oh my God. Oh
They're
my.
coming to collect.
Oh my arch enemy. My brain. Yeah. Huh. You're just out there. You're like, this is what I need, Centro. Yeah.
Yeah, you just like hit like the reliever button, and
Yeah.
here comes Central flying out.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That'd be perfect.
But from a positive note, it could also just be like a mental break,
Yeah.
and like you could have such positive self-talk
It's
of
painful.
like,
It's at 16.
I'm
It's not
really,
very.
I'm
much
really
of a
gonna
break.
do it today.
Some
Today's gonna be the day.
some much needed me time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be good.
Like, oh,
or you just
God.
start crying.
Oh, yeah.
What have I done?
you
Whatever
said,
the audio is from
"Don't sign
Hassan
me up."
Hassan.
Yeah. Oh, I said don't sign me up. Yeah. No.
Like immediately? Did you get
No,
that
no,
immediately?
I didn't. But it didn't make me say like, if I did a marathon, yeah, I would have done New York.
Okay.
And we were talking. I was talking.
Wait,
with
do you guys
Mac
wanna run
earlier.
next year?
Yeah, we were talking about running it.
Great. I want to do it next
Yeah,
year.
I was like, oh, that'd be really fun to do it. Just like,
Yeah.
not like really train for it.
No.
Just like put in a few miles a week
Yeah.
and have a fun
able to
time
fit
running.
into one of these.
Squeeze into the
yeah,
lollipop. But like that's why it seems like a really fun one to do. Like not like really train for it really hard.
Oh, yeah.
Just
I
have
want
a
a
fun
year.
time running
Yeah,
it.
I want
Yeah.
a year to pass. So there's no like thought that maybe I could run fast. Like I just want to do it for fun,
100%.
for the tourism of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move over to the men's race.
Let's go.
This could have been one of the years that you would have been signed up for it, probably.
This could this could have been this could have been my year.
Yeah.
All right. Fastest person.
Top
that-
American, I think.
Yeah.
Imagine that conversation. It's Clayton Young, Connor Mantz, CJ Albertson, Eric Jenkins. What could have been?
What could have been?
Yep. All right.
Anyway.
All right. As we look at the start list, fastest personal best on paper belongs to Evans Chibet. He's back.
Back.
The 2022 champion didn't get to run here last year because he was injured. So the guy who capitalized upon Chibet's absence was Ethiopia's Tamirat Tola,
Hell of a year.
who
Springboarded in.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Stardom.
incredible year because destroyed the New York City Marathon course record last year and then gets the late call to be added to the Ethiopian Olympic team and then just wins the whole thing. Wins
Insane
Olympic
that he got a
gold.
late call.
Yeah.
As we talked about in Paris, but I guess I'll talk about it again. Is the Ethiopian selection process?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Terrible.
like as he's winning the marathon, they're like, "Thank God."
Yeah. Yeah. He really saved the day
Thank
for the
God
whole
I
team.
picked up the phone.
Yeah.
So Tamirat Tola, 2:03 personal best. Bashir Abdi is the second fastest man on paper. He has 2 Olympic medals. One in the one is a bronze from the Olympics in 2021, and then upgraded to silver. So he finished behind Tola in Paris. Abdi Nageya, another Olympic medalist, also in there as well. So highly decorated front of the pack. Geoffrey Kamworor, another name that's back, 2-time champion here, returns to the New York City Marathon after some injury woes. Albert Carrera has won this race in the past. So it's really top heavy on the international side. I think it is sizing up to be Tamirat Tola versus Evans Chibet, although Mac was a little concerned by Chibet walking around, I think kind of poking at his hip or something like that.
He had a femoral stress fracture during the Olympics. I think that's what he told you yesterday. And I don't know if he was just stretching around or if he was just like kind of touching his hip. But anytime you're touching around your pelvis and you said that you had a femoral stress fracture, I don't necessarily love that. But he's
Yeah.
always fit. He always shows up. He's my favorite marathoner.
That's a coach's eye. That's a coach's eye. It's like if you see your athlete touching an injury, before they even say anything, you know something's up.
Well, the really fun part about like these pre-race press conferences is that someone in the room is lying, and like you could be saying like it is.
That's Chris is in the press conference. Who's lying?
Yeah.
Who's the liar
Yeah.
out of you?
Well,
yeah.
I said it straight up to Connor Mantz. Connor Mantz is like, I had a great build, like I'm
Liar.
very fit, and I said, "Are you lying to me?" And
Oh,
he goes,
wow.
No. But you know, I think what Evan said was like he had a really good build up. I think his coach told Let's Run that maybe it wasn't as good as it was in 2022, but he was so dominant that year that like he could get away with being at 85% of what that was. But the problem is you have someone like Tamirat Tola.
Yeah,
in
I don't
this
think you
race.
can get away with being at 85%,
Tola.
not against a guy like Tamirat Tola. Like, and he hasn't raced since then, right?
He
This
ran
is-
Boston.
he ran
And
Boston.
finished third
Sure,
there.
yeah.
But that wasn't a contest because then who was it? It was Cisse Lema, who's Tola's training partner, took that thing wire to wire and crushed Boston. So Evans Chibet wasn't really in it at any point, really. So
A femoral stress fracture is a big injury to come back from. That's not just, that's a fracture in the biggest bone in your body. So that's pretty serious. But again, like lots of experience, the fastest in the field. So, I mean, yeah, as someone who's had a stress fracture in their femur, it sucks.
this is Evans Chibet's 30th marathon.
That's
yeah,
wild.
His femur's like, I know.
Yeah.
You're telling me, man.
So I think Tola's the heavy favorite in this one.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Bashir Abdi.
I was gonna say,
like-
why we never
Yeah.
talk about him.
He-
I said this in Paris. I was like, God,
Yeah.
Bashir Abdi. Like he is such a sleeper
Yeah.
hit in the marathon. He's such a good racer and also just like a great guy. I was looking through the media
He's like the
guide.
best guy.
He's the best guy. And our listeners might he is.
No, I
Our-
trained with him for a bit. He's like
did?
genuinely such a nice
He's
guy.
very lovely.
Yeah.
He's very lovely. He's a similar story, like kind of parallel to Hassan Mead. Like grew up in Somalia and then went to Djibouti. So did Hassan. Ends up in Belgium by way of Ethiopia, and he and his wife have several kids. They run an after school sport. He runs an after school sports charity in Belgium. He's just like truly
kidding me?
lovely.
Yeah.
Yes.
No one talks about his after-school sports
talks
charity.
about the after-school sports charity. I mean,
I don't think anyone knows.
This.
No one knows about his after-school sports charity. He is the nicest guy.
Except the CITIUS Mag
Except for
listeners.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shout it from the rooftops. Yeah, he's two Olympic medals
In the marathon.
In the marathon, and the second fastest 2:03 guy. Right? I mean, for those stats alone, the fact that he's doesn't get talked about as favorites enough. I mean, this and the second that silver medal just happened, right?
Yes.
So I do think now he will be talked about more as the favorites, but
It's because he hasn't won a
it's just he
major.
just hasn't won a major.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Once you win one
Until
major,
Sunday.
Yeah.
And isn't Tamirat Tola like a little streaky? Like every other marathon is a banger.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point to bring up. Yeah.
he's an every other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except he's hit 2 home runs, I guess, in a row.
Yeah, okay. So he's due up for an every other.
Well,
New York last year.
New York last year. Then he had a bad day in London.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh
actually
my
did.
God, he really
Yeah.
is an every other. You
Yes.
nailed you.
Get the red beret
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Get the red beret out. Aisha's onto something. Here. Yeah. So I think, like, I'm curious to see back to sort of like the stupid made up award of like world's best marathoner. If Tola wins, does he have a really good case? Olympic gold.
I do. I think he
Yeah.
does.
New York
yeah.
champ. Or
I
is
think
it-
that's easier to say
Yeah.
because of the world record business.
I think that is easier because it used to be, like Kipchoge was just
Right.
the hands down favorite. Kipchoge's not the same athlete he was a few years ago, and it's like that. With the unfortunate passing of Kelvin Kiptum, like it's the best marathoner in the world for men it's really open right now, and with Tamirat Tola winning the Olympics, won New York last year in dominant fashion. Like, yeah, if he wins again this weekend, how are you going to deny that he is the marathoner in the world, like the best in the world right now? I think it's hard.
It's Tola, and it extends back to, if you want to move the goalposts even more, 2022 world champ in Eugene as well. So he's been on a hot streak now for a good 2.5 years. Just really quick, this is a sports debate that happens all the time when it comes to like the greats and like when is their moment to like hang it up? Not hang it up, but just like is their moment past? Like when Tom Brady got old, or Peyton Manning, like it's like, are they past their prime now? And they'll always do something to surprise us, to remind us like what makes them great. Are we at that point now with Kipchoge, with after the Paris DNF no fall marathon this year, and he's maybe probably one of those people who's like, yeah, I'm getting older, like I can't run Berlin, won't run. I frankly think he's scared of New York.
Why do you say that?
I think the hills in Boston spooked Kipchoge, and like it exposed him that he's not that good at hilly marathons, which is kind of wild to say about someone who's held the world record and broken 2 hours before. But maybe he is just someone who, like, in the optimal conditions and on a flat, fast course, like he'll be the greatest. But he was exposed in Boston. Paris didn't go well. Dropped out at 32, 33K. I finished the whole race, and then has never signed up to run New York.
Yeah, you're not scared of New York.
I'm not
No.
scared. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So what happens now is you end up with headlines like this. This is on the Daily Mail. Olympic icon and former world record holder quits his event at 39 after he had to take a taxi to the finish line at the Paris Games.
Well, that's just disrespectful.
It was a little exaggerated because
Imagine hailing down the cab, and he's like, I got no money. I got nothing on me.
he took off his top to give to like one of the fans, so he got into the car.
Do you think he
in
said
his
like
shorts.
Google me?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm good for
I'm good
it?
for it. I do
Yeah.
have cash. He's like, I don't. Yeah.
Apparently, I think that the article very exaggerated because it wasn't a taxi. It was the med van, sweeping up the DNFs during the Olympic marathon.
I mean, that is a huge difference.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
med van versus
Yeah.
like a yellow
the
cab
Daily
in New
Mail.
York City.
Yeah.
And then he's never given any indication that he's quit the marathon. I think this is about he's participating in like some 10K. I don't even know if it's like for a fast time or anything like that, or like if it's going to be a competitive thing, or he's just like one of these ambassadors that shows up to races. But Kipchoge's down in the media right now.
He's down.
Well, I think
And the
it's
Daily Mail's taking
like, are
advantage
you
of that.
like, should Kipchoge hang it up? Is basically what you're asking. Like, well, you're saying like, okay, we're talking about Tom Brady and Peyton
Yeah.
Manning. Like, are they past their prime? Is
I
it
think
like?
I think we're past the point now of like, if Kipchoge was in this race, I don't think he's a favorite.
wouldn't
Oh,
call him
I
a
mean,
favorite.
I don't think he'd be
no,
the
like
favorite.
he
Yeah.
just hasn't the races he's done as of late haven't given you the confidence where like this is the guy to win.
Yeah.
But again, like I thought about a guy like Kenenisa Bekele, and
Right.
you'd be like, I think it's time for him to hang it up. He would have all these races where he makes it halfway and pulls out. He like can't do a full marathon build with staying healthy.
His agent saying like he's
And
the most out of shape he's ever seen him, and
yeah.
he runs 201.
And then all of a
Right.
sudden he's like a few seconds off the world record. So you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like
that talent never goes
the
away.
talent never
No.
goes. So it's like Kipchoge. Would it surprise you if all of a sudden, like later this year, Kipchoge busts out like an insane time again? Like, no, I don't think it would. But yeah, if he was in the field this weekend, I wouldn't have him as a favorite, and I would love to know. I would love to have him respond to you and see if he's scared in New York City.
Yeah, I'm never in the business of telling an athlete that it's time to hang it
Yeah.
up.
No.
I think if someone is out there training in earnest, they know something about themselves that we don't, right?
Yeah.
And we don't know what he's going through in his life. He could be having other things outside
poisoning.
of running that, like, like we truly don't know. But I do think athletes that are training, they are doing it for a reason, and athletes that are showing up to start lines of races, like they are holding on to a hope, and I think trusting their own intuition about their own career is always the move. But like you said, I don't think I would have him as a favorite, but he's also
He's
Kipchoge.
Yeah.
So whenever he's on the start line, it's newsworthy for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And but also the marathon is so much different than track, where you have 2 opportunities a year. Like you can't.
And a sweet appearance fee too.
And so it's not like in like a 1500 or the track where there's a lot of opportunities to like show the public that you're fit, or like show yourself you're fit. With the marathon, it's like, all right, like it's big long build up, and if that race goes poorly, then it's just like, oh, this guy retire? You know,
Right.
There's not all these opportunities to showcase fitness. So it's like one of these things that we talk about more of like, oh, like what has Kipchoge done recently? And it's like nothing. But
Yeah.
in the reality is, it's just like, yeah, he's had a couple bad races, but he's still, Kipchoge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so we spent a bunch of time on someone who's not in the race. So I'll bring it
Sorry.
back. No, it's fine. I'd let us down that rabbit hole. Let's focus on the top Americans here for a second.
Yeah.
Connor Mance, Clayton Young, back after finishing 8-9 at the Olympics. But we also have CJ Albertson, who's trying to do something that I don't think anyone has ever done before, and that's finish top American at the Boston Marathon, Chicago Marathon, and New York City Marathon.
No one's done that?
all in the same calendar year. I
He's so
don't think
kooky.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
on top of that, also finish 5th at the U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials.
Yeah.
So,
What do you think? You think he pulls it off?
so it's Connor Mance and Clayton Young are a handful.
Yeah, I don't think.
But-
Look, I don't think. Can he do it? Maybe. I think Connor Mance. I think he's races. I just love the way Mance races. Always so aggressive. And like I think he said he wanted to be top 5, right? Like
Yeah.
that's his goal. Like
When
when
I-
you're shooting for
That's
that
great.
type of goal.
I said to him, like, CJ has this mission. How are you going to stop him? He goes, I'm not really thinking about
Yeah.
CJ Albertson. And then I
Yeah.
said, well, we're going to clip that.
I love how
Yeah.
you clipped it. You're like, okay, we'll just manufacture this beef like perfect.
Yeah, I do think that's such a good point, though. Like, as someone who didn't run for the U.S., I would always found it so strange. I mean, I know that you're financially incentivized to want to be top American.
Here there is a bonus,
You
yeah.
win $25K if you're the top American, but this is not the U.S. championships. Like, there are a lot of people in this race who do not care what country you run for, and it is about finishing as high as possible. And I always felt that there was some part of this like top American that makes American runners run defensively of like, I'm looking for the people that I know, when really you should be in there trying to fight the big dogs and not worried about this race within a race.
Well, when there is a big financial incentive to be the top American in a sport where it's like, look, this is my day for the paycheck. So if I make a few thousand more going for the top American, and maybe I do play it a little bit safe and conservative, like these are athletes that oftentimes really need that. So it's like, I do think like Conor Mantz, it's like, look, I'm not going for the top American. Like I'm just going to go and try and I want to be in contention for a podium finish. I think that is the better way to race when you're as good as Conor Mantz. I think because people want to be the top American. It's just kind of like looked at as a fun little it's a fun little stat, especially at like the big American marathons.
Yeah.
But like CJ Albertson, it's going to take, I think, a big day for him to get Mantz, to get Clayton Young. We've slept on Clayton Young in the past and taken a lot of heat for that. So I'm not going to doubt him again this weekend. But yeah, I do think it's kind of Conor Mantz's, as far as top American goes, it's Conor Mantz's race, and it's the others are underdogs in that.
Yeah, especially because we're hearing these reports both from Mantz, downplayed it a little bit, of saying that he thinks he's in really good shape. Clayton Young says this is the best shape he's ever seen Conor Mantz, and he gets the first row glimpse at it in practice every day. Mantz also ran that 10-miler. Let me pull it up.
Has Mantz run New York?
No, but he's
run really well at Boston.
He's run really well at Boston.
Yep.
In 4 of his 5 career marathons, Conor Mantz has been like the top American at each one of them. So, but again, to your point about just like the mindset that Conor has, it's so different from what we've seen in the past, where it's like it's not settling, right? And it's the only other person on this course, I feel like maybe Jared Ward and Dathan gave this a crack once, but like even then, like their ceiling and potential wasn't enough, I think, to crack the top 5, and it ends up being like a top American finish in the top 9, 10, 11, 12 range. But the only other person I can remember here to really full send against the top East Africans is Galen Rupp.
What's the fastest time an
was, like,
Americans run
injured.
here?
That's a good question.
I think it might be Ryan Hall.
It might be Ryan Hall, or maybe, probably Ryan. Well, no, Ryan Hall did the Olympic trials here.
It was around Central Park.
It was Central Park. It wasn't New York City Marathon course.
Got it.
He ripped that, though.
Could be Meb.
He ripped it.
Meb's win, which is back 2009. So Conor Mantz, I guess, back to bring it back to him. Eric, I want your reaction to this, because it went pretty under the radar. He ran the U.S. 10-miler in Minneapolis, 45:13, like faster than the American record by Ryan Hall. I think that's not an American record because of the nature of the course. It was also like a good tailwind, but that's no joke.
I just love you're right. It's absolutely no joke. I really love the way that Mantz runs. He's just so aggressive every time he lines up. You wouldn't be surprised this weekend if the pace is slow and you just see Mantz like pushing it at the front.
Completely.
He's that type of athlete. He's not intimidated by the guys in the race. He just is it seems like very sure of what he's capable of doing himself. Because it's when the clip of him saying like, yeah, I'm not worried about CJ. It's like,
let's go.
I'm worried about what I can do, and I know based off workouts and races like that 10-miler what I'm capable of. So I know what I can do that day. So I'm not worried about anyone. When you've got that type of mentality and racing, when you're that tough of a racer, it's like the perfect storm. It's like exactly what you would want out of if you were coaching an athlete. You'd be like, Conor Mantz is the type of guy you'd want to coach.
I completely agree, and I do think that he is America's next greatest marathoner. Like you see it. It's the marathon's so tough, and to have that mentality where you're not capping yourself to like certain expectations that maybe the media has for you, maybe your sponsors have for you, but you're really willing to want to be the best in the world, that is you put yourself into a different category in the marathon. Is if that's where you're looking, you're automatically going to unlock such a big potential and a big ceiling. And he's young. I love that. I love to see.
He's 27.
He's 27 years old. Like, not many Americans start running the marathon that young. And this just opens he could run for another 10 years at a really high level in the marathon.
He just loves to race, right? Because he did the trials 10K as like, it was like, okay, Clayton came, right? And we interviewed Clayton and it was like
he was going through team processing.
He was going through team processing. So it was like a hard, like 10K tempo was on the schedule. And Mance like, why don't I just go and race the trials? I have the tempo anyway. It's like, that's such a cool, so many athletes are like, no, like I want to stick to my build. I want to log the big mile weeks. And like, I want everything to be how I planned it. And Mance is just like, no, I want to race, like more race experience, the better. I think it's a fantastic attitude to have. But what's something cool about Mance is kind of like Obiri. You watch them run, they don't have this like unbelievably silky smooth stride. I remember
high knees.
I watched Mance win the NCAA cross, and right away you go, this guy is hurting. I remember the commentator actually was like, I don't think Mance is hurting. It'd be amazing to see him hang on and all of a sudden he's like kicking for the win. It's like, wow. He doesn't like compared to even his teammate Clayton Young, who's got
great form
out at the trials. You're watching Clayton run and you're like, this guy looks fantastic, like very smooth, great arm carry.
There's Connor.
And then there's Connor.
I mean, but the same, you watch Hellen run.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of wasted energy up top. She's got like
the arms.
big arms going side to
side. We asked
side.
Sharon what it's like racing against Hellen, and I said, like, have you ever taken an elbow from Hellen? And she was like, yes. And it hurts. Like it hurts the most. And maybe that's why Helen's got her a couple of times.
Yeah, it's a UFC. She's throwing elbows out there.
Full contact.
But what's cool, it's like the marathon is one of those events where you're like, if you would want to have no wasted energy, no wasted movement, you would think it would be in the marathon. And athletes like Hellen, like Connor, so successul. But I mean, that's more of a testament to just how good they are and how talented, how tough they are at digging deep. I'm like, how did I get started trashing the best people's forms? But Mance, I think, is due up for a big one. If he's as fit, if guys like Clayton are saying like I've never seen him this fit. I always think like when you're hyping up people, sometimes like sometimes it's just like it backfires, and a lot of athletes want to go in with like underselling it. They're like you ask them how they're doing, they're like, yeah, we'll see, it's been all right. Like everyone's saying the opposite for Connor.
Yeah, so we've got Connor Mance, Clayton Young, Elkona Kibet, who was fourth at the trials. Jared Ward's in it. Colin Benny, Futsum Zeneselassie, shout out.
Jared Ward's in it.
Jared Ward's in it. I'm looking at the start list right now.
Wow.
You're like, what year is it?
Yeah. I'm like, if you told 19-year-old Aaron Jared Ward's in this shit. Woo!
Hey, I just want to throw it out there, so maybe it'll sound like a genius if this pans out. Ryan Ford is making his debut in this marathon, and he was the guy who paced Connor Mance to the 208, and Connor Mance and Clayton Young to the 208 in Chicago in 2023. So last year. Is
he a rep boy?
I don't know. He's from Boone, North Carolina, it says here, but he went 35K at that pace, so that's not that
pretty
far off.
impressive.
It's like, dude, just hang on. You're right there.
Yeah, so like keep your eyes on Ryan Ford.
Love.
If we're clipping this, if I sound like a genius, and he runs really well on Sunday.
I mean, if you're pacing guys to that type of time, going that long, that's the best type of training and like confidence you could get to being delivering.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I've run with these guys for this far into the race. I did all the work. I know that I could, like, that gives you serious confidence to be able to, like, oh, I can do this myself. Like,
And to go 35K, you had to have been feeling pretty good, or else
Yeah.
you're not. 35K is a long way.
I mean,
to go.
he probably wasn't planning on going 35K. It's
Yeah.
probably like, hey, like, can you just pace these guys through what, like 25, 30K max? I mean, it's how many Ks are out there?
42.
Like 42, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
You're almost there.
You wouldn't like a race director's not gonna ask, hey, can you pace these guys 35K? Because you're like, why don't I just run the damn thing?
Yeah.
Like Centro.
Like Centro, yeah.
Wesley Kiptu's fit
Yes.
also. I
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah, the reports out of the NAZ camp, Wesley Kiptu, super fit. So we're going to have him stop by here at the CITIUS Cafe. So keep an eye out for an interview with him in the next day or so on the podcast feed and on our YouTube channel as well. But yeah, I mean, I think we've got great races all around, both at the international level, even within the Americans. So tons to watch out for on Sunday. I kind of wanted to see if I could pull up as of right now, the weather is looking perfect.
Looks so perfect.
43 degrees, 45 degrees at the start. Should get up to about 53. Like, you can't ask for anything better than that.
and it's not windy.
No. Yeah, not windy.
Knock on wood.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that does it for our CITIUS Mag preview show from the HOKA station from CITIUS station presented by HOKA. We've got the many thanks to HOKA. Thanks to Catherine Burgess from Rome Creative for designing these super awesome shirts. The set that you see behind us, just in general, a lot of the creative efforts here from Rome. We've also got our super special Olipop HOKA CITIUS Mag singlets. These are
You're gonna
limited
want 'em.
edition. You're gonna want them.
You're gonna want 'em.
We've got a limited quantity of these that we'll be giving out at our group run by the time
Raffling
this comes out.
off.
Yeah, raffling them out.
We're not giving them away. We're raffling them off.
Raffles. We love a good
Sure.
raffle.
Yeah.
So, again, thanks to Olipop for being our year-round official drink sponsor of CITIUS Mag. Use code CITIUS25 at checkout at drinkolipop.com. I have the apple crisp flavor, which is now a year-round flavor. It used to just be in the fall. It's delicious.
That's really fun.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do end up winning one of these singlets, tag us. And also, if you use our code, tag us. Mac is saying, tag us on Instagram.
Tag us on Instagram for a chance to win one of these singlets.
Ah.
Right. There you go. You heard it from Mac. With your Olipop. Yep. That's...
Okay, so let's just say that from the top. If you've got an Olipop,
If you got an
take a
Olipop.
little picky pick,
Yep.
tag CITIUS, tag Olipop on Instagram, and you might be able to win one
might
of these
win one of these
gorgeous singlets.
Yeah. There you have it. All right. That does it. I've been Chris Chavez with Aisha Pratt-Lear and Eric Jenkins. Eric, close us out.
J'adore l'athlétisme.
That'll do it. That'll do it. All right. We'll see you guys on Sunday for our marathon watch along. Perfect.